Well, welcome everybody. We are joining live. If you are new to the live stream today, it is hour 9 of the Right for Money and Power book launch. We just hit #1 on Amazon bestseller today. But I'm really excited to be joined by our next guest, Roxanne, Roxy Saffaie. Though many people know her as Roxy, Roxanne is a top-rated podcaster, writer, and creator whose work centers on self-trust, courage-led mastery, and embodied decision making. She's the host of The Roxanne Show, a top 1% podcast globally, which is really excellent. You guys need to check it out. And the creator of a deeply engaged Substack community devoted to truth, intuition, and living from the heart, not formulas. Roxanne work blends psychology, philosophy, spirituality, and lived experience. Roxy, I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you. No, I'm really excited to chat with you because one of the themes that really kind of elevated your work for me was this idea of self trust. And I know that a lot of the writers and creators on this Substack Live right now struggle with that concept. And I know for you, it's more of like a lived relationship. When you hear the phrase creative power, how do you feel like that kind of deals with self trust, or where do you find your creative power from?
Well, I first I would say from being very connected to my authentic essence. And that's not necessarily something that will come easy or natural to people for a lot of reasons. From childhood, you could be steered to feel that it's safer to not be who you truly are. And then hopefully at some point earlier than later in life, you wake up and realize that that's not what you came here to do. You didn't come here to be anything but you. But I do believe that, I've been an artist my whole life, creating my whole life, and I absolutely source my highest creative self through the relationship that I have with my heart, with my soul, with my authentic essence. So I feel that our highest creative power will absolutely come from that connection point.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that I really love, kind of the verbiage that you're using. And one of the things that is really inspiring about you and your work that I think a lot of people will relate to is that you spent nearly 2 decades as a leading celebrity makeup artist before taking a pivot and betting on yourself. And I know a lot of people listening want to make that pivot, but are maybe afraid, maybe because they're lacking self trust. What gave you the courage to walk away from something successful and say yes to what was calling you next?
There's so many ways I can answer this because it wasn't the first time. And in fact, building that entire career, the freelance makeup career, that was also me betting on myself. Because anybody who, and I'm sure there's many as writers, it's a freelance, depending on your setup, but a lot of times writing it's a freelance situation. So you are literally hunting for your work. And you only have that job until you have the next job, right? And so it goes against everything that we've been groomed to sort of take on as what is secure, right? You grow up, you go to college, you get this paycheck, and you're good, right? It's steady and you're secure. So freelance completely just goes against that, right? And so for some reason, since I mean, really straight from high school, I just decided that I was going to live my life on my terms, that I didn't even know it was betting on myself at that point. It was just always this thing where I was going to follow what felt good, right, and true for me and my heart. And so if we go to the point of, leaving the makeup career and going into what I just frame as my dharma, because this wasn't an all of a sudden I'm going to be a writer, or even when I launched the podcast, it wasn't this now I'm going to start a brand and become this, public facing forward person. No, it was just that I had been listening to podcasts. This is way before podcasts were even a thing, and I've always been a conversationalist, a communicator. I'm insatiably curious and a variety of, well, just in life in general, And so the transition for me, it was this thing where it was like everything was just kind of leading to this place of if you don't, then what? Like you and sometimes we have to get to that point where and sometimes for some people that point will be painful, very painful. Like you get so depressed, or gratefully that wasn't the case for me. You're so unhappy doing this thing and you're so wanting to do this thing that you just get to this breaking point where you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna go do that, right? But for me, it was really, to be honest, it was just that I had already built that muscle, and I'm not trying to downplay the challenge that came because I was essentially, I started all over. I started all over from a career standpoint, but I didn't start all over from an internal perspective. Like I had these very important uh, qualities and sort of the intangibles built. In fact, I built them very powerfully through my freelance career, like resilience, like fortitude, the perseverance, right? Resourcefulness. I mean, all of that and then some came through and served me very well in my makeup career because I had to build. I went from the very bottom to the very top 1%, and to get to that top 1% was excruciating at times. And so, I mean, I think the bottom line is this, is that for me, at least in my journey, and that pivot point was I I'm not afraid to fail. Uh, what is more scary to me is the idea of ending up on that regret list that, there's been studies that show what's the number one regret that people on their deathbed have, and that's that they didn't live the life that they truly wanted to live. And so I'm very, um, I have an allergy to anything that's going to potentially put me on that list. And I just want to put this out there. It can sound really beautiful and romantic and inspiring and motivating. And in fact, it is all of that. And it's brutally hard. You're going to get your ass kicked left, right, front, center, like in every which way that, you can. There's going to be so many points where you're questioning. You're just in the trenches and you're like, wait, am I doing it right? Am I doing it enough? Am I, all those. But when this is why it's so important to really cultivate the relationship that I am always talking about with your heart, with your authentic self, because it's better to fail. It's better to miss the mark and be going for it than to taste this eternally unanswered question that is,
Mm.
well, what if? Because failing is an answer. Right? Rejection's an answer. We can deal with those answers. Those answers give us material that actually invite us to either go in harder on our thing, to learn, to grow. But what do we do with the internally unanswered question that is, I don't even know what would have happened because I didn't try. So I stay away from that.
Very well said. I think that this is going to resonate with a lot of people because your path, there's a lot of freelancers who are listening right now. And even like you were freelancing in a very competitive industry when I was coming up in Hollywood as a TV writer, I saw how competitive the makeup world was, and every piece of the entertainment industry was really, really hard. And then you also went into another very competitive, very challenging space and became a top 1% podcast for the Roxanne show. And you have hundreds of episodes. And looking back now, it feels like your success is self-evident. But I know that there's a lot of uncertainty in those early moments of kind of creating something from scratch. And, one thing that I'm curious about is how do you help people tell the difference between their fear and their intuition when making big decisions? Because you've talked about regret, but how do people listen and kind of differentiate between, is that my fear talking or is that my intuition talking?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean there's different ways to approach this. I mean, the first way for me personally is, what do you feel in your body?
Mhm.
You can feel scared and still feel expanded, like excited. For example, I remember, I'm going to be doing a TEDx talk. And when that first came online for me, like the opportunity came, it was like, oh, it's like, you kind of, and I'm someone who speaks publicly, but, uh, and it was a thing of like, do you want to do this? And and it's a little nerve-wracking at first, like, "Do I wanna do that?" And that's like a fear-based thought, right? But my whole body is like, "Fuck yeah." You know? And so, when we feel closed, when we feel constricted, that's something that's interesting. That to me is like, "Wait a second, maybe this isn't for me." But when we feel expanded, that's usually a yes, even if, there's all this fear, like, kind of nervousness, and so that's one thing. Your body has an intelligence that I think is faster than your mind can register, right? So when we learn to get more in touch with our body, this is why vitality is such a big part of the conversation for me too. I am an athlete by way of life, and the healthier you are, the more your channels are open, the more connected you're actually going to be. You're going to be able to discern it a lot easier when your body is more activated with health. So that's one thing. I think the next thing is, and this is gonna be, maybe a little triggering, but at the end of the day, we know. We
Mhm.
know. Sometimes you have to go against you kinda play you go in the fear route and you learn, "Mm, wait, shoulda done that," right? Like, that was, or even if it was not this should have done that, it's this, "I heard it in the beginning. I felt it.
Mhm.
I knew. I knew." Honestly, Amy, I feel like in my like, the love life showed me that, like, historically, but it was like, like, I knew in the beginning that wasn't the thing, but I still had to go for it, and that's okay, because sometimes I often say, like, the route to trusting yourself is to go against that internal feeling a couple of times and experience what that's like, so you never fucking do it again, you
Sometimes
know?
it's the only way that we learn. And I just want to return to this thing that I think that really resonated with some of the people here, which is this question of yours of what does your body feel? And in the chat, Amy Benavides said, great question. And when you were talking about that, and I agree because I think especially, and a lot of the people tuning in right now, a lot of us identify as writers first. And sometimes we can be so academic and up here that we forget about how does our body feel, and that's why I love like how holistic that you are in your advice, or the topics you talk about on your podcast are so broad in a way that like feels really beautiful in the way that they all come together. One of the things that I'm curious about is how you see, like, you obviously are like very talented, multi hyphenate. How do you see writing as a practice in your work? Is it a tool for self mastery? Do
Yep.
you see it as self expression? Like, what does writing as a craft mean to you?
Gosh, all the above. Amy, I've been writing since before I even knew what being a writer was. It's just been this is a quote of mine, but I write because I can't not write.
Mm.
So, is it a tool for self-mastery? Absolutely. Is it creative expression, self-expression? 1000%. It is the thing that I credit, how did you become this woman, right? The woman that you are, and how did you attain the inner faculties that you have? Well, for sure, I'm out here living my life, but I give so much of the credit to my writing, to my journals, to because it's been this safe room for me to be with me, all of me. The parts that the shadow, the parts that you don't really want to sit with and don't want to face, and then the other parts, right? So, most of my writing throughout my life was private, and then it went public years ago. I'm actually writing a book right now that will, yeah, there's books
Amazing.
in the queue. Yeah, it's so,
Yeah.
and so it's taking on, a different sort of form, but the answer to your question for me personally is that writing is the greatest tool to get to know your true self, to build what I call self-intimacy. When we think about if you think about someone that you really trust, someone that you could just on your pretty days, on your ugly days, on your high days, your hard days, like it doesn't matter. This is the person that you could just totally be yourself with. Usually the piece there that makes it so comfortable for you to be with that person in any state is that you don't feel judged. You're
Mhm.
not going to be judged by that person, right? And so what writing has done for me in my life and how I guide others, like, I have my Heart Alchemy writing challenges and Substack, and is first and foremost, it's building the safe space where you go in, where you do connect with all of you, and especially your heart. Your heart has its own intelligence, and you don't judge yourself. And that's not going to be easy at first for a lot of reasons. But the more that you put the reps in, the more that you keep showing up and you do make this a practice, right? I call it rolling ink, just pen to page, right? It's like you start to you start to become more compassionate with yourself. And this invites that safety in like nothing else. And when you can start to feel so safe with who you truly are, you're accepting all the parts of you. Accepting doesn't mean stopping and, there's always things to grow, but to grow, first we have to be aware, right? Then we have to accept and then we can move forward. I mean, this just makes you a more resilient person out here in the world because you start to love and respect yourself in a way that matters more to you than what anybody thinks about you. And if you think about one of the greatest fears that, people operate with, it's what do others think of me? So that was a long answer, but maybe an important one.
Yeah, no,
But
and
there's
in
so
the chat, Shivam says, very deep talk here. Thanks, Roxy, for sharing. And I
Oh,
second that. I just want to highlight the phrase that you've used. Very creative, never heard it before. Love it. Rolling ink.
yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Like, I think that feels like I love that just feels like it embodies a lot of the things that you're teaching in your spaces. And from what I've seen from you, this idea of like allowing things to roll and to flow. And I think that when you're a writer, that kind of state is just euphoric and it's
Uh,
so special. And I think it's great that you're creating these safe spaces for people to roll ink, which I love. I would
yeah.
buy that on a t-shirt. I would have like
Rolling.
something on my desk. I think that that's really cool. So
Oh,
one thing that, and then Kyrie in the chat says, gotta love the Roxy isms.
oh,
Kiri,
dear.
that's very
Girl,
lovely.
why?
One of the things that I'm curious about, and I've had this conversation with a few different people because this is something that comes up in our community a lot, is this idea that so often us writers and creatives are being told that we have to have a niche, we have to pick a lane, we have to specialize. But what I love about you is that you have such a powerful body of work across writing, podcasting, speaking, you're doing a TED Talk, you're writing a book. Like, how do you decide what to create next? What do you take with this niche advice? Like, how do you feel? Like, because
Uh,
you feel very cohesive when you show up online. How do you balance these different parts of your career while still kind of having this sense of sharing your mission cohesively?
yeah, that's a big and great question. So, well, let me give you when I first started developing myself public facing forward, right? It started first with the podcast. And I remember, and then you start building, sort of brand outside of that, and then you're looking at other things business wise that you want to create. And I remember the conversation around niching down coming up. And meanwhile, I'm an athlete, philosophy, psychology, right, artist, kind of, my back career, and I'm like niching down. Wait, how am I going to do this? Like I'm a lifestyle girl, and there's so many, one thing feeds off the other. So this is just content, right? This is not necessarily like you frame the podcast and the book and all that. I'll get to that. But I just remember thinking to myself, there's no way. That's like saying, here, you only get one of my arms. It's like, no, I'm Roxy. Like this is all no. And so I was very anti, and I still am in a lot of ways to that whole idea of no, you have to be this one thing or focus on one thing. I can understand from a business perspective, from a marketing perspective. I get it. You know, be known for that one thing and then you can, but I think that's a slippery slope actually. Like if you think about it from the podcast perspective, if I would have honed in and been, Roxy just the music girl or Roxy just the writing girl, nothing wrong with that if that's really your thing. But then it limits the conversations and where you can go. Whereas for me, I couldn't do it because it wouldn't be true to who I am, but B, it wouldn't allow me to do the very thing that I wanna do, which is to explore in the various subjects that I am just drawn to, naturally. So that was one thing, just again, in terms of picking sort of subjects or things that you want to focus on in your career. But as far as like platforms, and I mean, I have a portfolio career, and to me, it's an ecosystem, and we live now is the time for this style of career. Again, this is so different. I'm 47, and I did not grow up where this YouTube. No, no, you know what I mean? It was like I was a child of the 80s. It was grow up, go to college, get that one job, and then you retire at 60, right? Um, which I never subscribed to, obviously. But to me, having an ecosystem, how do you decide? Okay, that's a great question. Well, there's for me, there's two pieces to this whole ecosystem that reign above all else. And that is my podcast and that is writing. Now, what comes, the opportunities or how I branch out from there, that I get very discerning and, I have to be very strategic because you only have so much, energy, creative energy. I mean, my cognitive load every single day because everything that I create, Amy, is truly mine. I'm not out there looking and then, oh, maybe I should do this. It's like, no, I channel when I talk. I download, my own framework. This is my shit, right? So I think in terms of how do I decide, it really comes down to what is the most important to you. And not for me personally, it's not, oh, because this is the most important thing for business. It's like, no, how about this? Where would you show up no matter for the rest of your life if there was no money involved?
Mm.
Where would you show up? And for me, podcast, writing, like that's just it for me. So anything else underneath that, you could try a little, "Oh, I'm going to build a community here, or I'm going to try this course thing. I'm going to do that." And I've done that, and I have some great, I have those pieces. But as far as what I pour my majority of my energy into on a daily basis, it's those two things.
Very well said. I love that. And Amy in the chat says she really sparked to what you were talking about of seizing the moment. She says now is the time. I'm 58 and had a heart attack last year. My new motto, and I do really love this idea of thinking about what are those core things that if you were not going to make any money that you would still show up to do, and returning to that sense of your intuition and what's important for you. And if anyone else who's listening now has questions for Roxy, you can drop them in the chat. I still have some more questions for Roxy myself, so I'm going to keep on rolling, but wanted to offer that invitation. So you work with a lot of creatives who are building courage in real time, and you have a bunch of different programs for helping people through writing and through other means. And I'm curious, like, what kind of patterns do you see in the people who actually follow through on their truth?
Yeah, that's a great question, Amy. The ones who follow through on their truth, I mean, the ones who really dig down and stay consistent with this work, hmm, I mean, honestly, are the ones that care most about it. Bottom line, it's you have to care. You have to care enough about yourself and your growth and your life and your outcomes to continuously show up to the work, especially this kind of work. The work that I invite the people in my community, women especially, to do, it's not sexy, it's not glamorous, it's not here's the 1, 2, 3, 5 step and then you're there. No, no, it's not that. I invite you to go deep into the inner terrains of your being where most people either want to ignore, hide, run, right? And these women, they go in and they go in hard. And I find that the ones that are really devoted to the work are the ones that really, even if they can't fully say, "Oh, I've got this self-love thing fully down," there's enough care and love in there to say, "I'm worth the effort. I'm gonna just keep going."
Ooh.
The
Ooh.
effort.
That's special. I love that. I love I'm worth the effort. And I think that that's something that a lot of us writers really struggle with, is this idea of giving ourselves that sense of worthiness, because so often we're kind of brought down by starving artist mythology that's very damaging and things like that. And so looking back on your journey, what belief about success or safety or identity did you have to let go of to fully become who you are now?
Well, I mean, I think the most valuable piece to offer to this question is, and it wasn't a conscious decision, but it's more, I'm very introspective and reflecting on what's been the thing that's really allowed you to create your life and, create the successes and to go for it. It's it's this thing of there is no such thing as certainty out there. And in fact, you don't want certainty out there. We think we do. We're I it's you're trying to control for it every day until you realize, wait a second, actually that's where the magic lives. Actually, that's where infinite possibilities live. That's where anything, the beauty of life, like, oh my gosh, and then I met this person and then, it all turned around, or oh my gosh, and then this opportunity came, or oh my gosh, fill in the blank, right? If we're so certain, then all of that goes away. What we actually really want is certainty in ourselves,
Mm,
certainty that we're capable to navigate uncertainty with resilience, with courage, with trust that no matter what we're going to face, we're going to get through it. We're going to find a way. We're going to find a way to conquer, to thrive, to be better, to create a life that is really meaningful to us. We want certainty in ourselves. So I think for me, again, it was like an unconscious decision at first that I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to trust my heart before I even realized what that was. And I'm going to go through this uncertainty terrain with this sense of I can do this. I got this. And then, I developed this relationship with myself that now it becomes conscious to where it's like, oh wait, I am in this with me and we, and this is like where it can go higher self comes into the picture, right? Like we, Roxy, can get through uncertainty, with strength, with resilience, with trust, with courage. Right. So that's the biggest thing, Amy. It's this game. It's pivoting the perspective, this desire to I just need to create safety out here. No, you need to create safety in here. And when you
mhm.
create safety in here, you can navigate the whatever is going on out here from a very empowered and capable, secure place.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I have one more thing I want to circle back with you on with self trust. But before I do that, you've been kind enough to give away one annual paid subscription to your Substack. And the question that I have for everyone to drop in the comments below is, in one sentence, viewers, what's one true move your heart has been asking you to make? And I'm going to ask Roxy another question, and then she can pick somebody from the comments below for the giveaway. So again, that question is, in one sentence, what's one true move your heart has been asking you to make this year or maybe for a while? And so while I'm letting everybody kind of take a minute to answer that question in the comments to win one annual subscription to your great Substack, I have a question for you, Roxy. And that question is, if someone listening knows in their body that a change is calling them, but they're waiting to feel ready, what's one small, honest step that they can take to build self trust, which you've been talking about this whole time, which I think is really beautiful right now?
Oh man. I'm just gonna say the first thing that because it's right here. Um, and I'll follow it up and give you something that's like practical, but I'm gonna give you the bottom line reality of how this really works. I'll give it to you in one of my quotes. So one of my quotes is, I can trust myself because I refuse to lie to myself.
Ooh.
I can trust myself because I refuse to, you can't lie to yourself. So how do you start trusting yourself? And you have this thing like, stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. And if you want to take this and make it practical, okay, well, uh, take it to let's go roll some ink. Let's take it to the pages, right? Write it out. What's the thing that you're afraid of that you're not admitting? Write it out. Admit it on the page. Admit it on the page. Don't run from it. Look at it, sit with it. What does that mean to you? And then this is one of my this is a I love this in my coaching. And then what? And then
Mm.
what? So write it out. Maybe it's, oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm afraid because this could happen. It's usually this fear of I'm going to lose something. That's usually like, I'm kind of a bottom line girl. Like, what does it all come down to? Like, what's the bottom line, right? And so write out the worst case scenario, write out whatever it is. And then what? Because when you keep adding that and then what, you're going to get to a core truth and you need to face that truth. The more truths that we can face inside of ourselves, the more we build that connection with ourselves, the more that we build a sense of acceptance too. Because the hardest part, a lot of times, Amy, is just facing the damn thing. But when we can at least face it, I mean, we don't stop there, but that is step number one. We have to face it. And then we get to go, okay, well, how do I want to move from here? And a better question, a stronger question is who do I want to be from this now? Knowing this, who do I want to be? You're writers. Everybody writes different ways, different things, but you're writing a story. You are writing a story. It's your life. You're the main character. How do you want that main character to move in that moment? Like what would be the ideal? And I want to say this again. I'm not saying that this is going to be easy. I don't sell easy. I sell a mirror to your power, right? Like I'm going to hold that mirror up that shows you that you're powerful, that you're capable, that you can do hard things.
Beautiful, beautiful. Everything that we need to hear today to go roll some ink. Oh, so gorgeous. I love that. Great phrase of yours. So, Roxy, if you want to go through the comments, we have some people leave some
Huh.
comments for the giveaway. If you want to pick the person to win the giveaway for
Oh my
your
goodness.
Substack, which is so kind of you. While you're looking through that, I'll give some announcements for those of you who are just
Yay.
joining. This is the 12-hour live stream for Right for Money and Power. And the next guest that we have is Veronica Lorca Smith of the Lemon Tree Mindset.
I
And
love her.
yeah, she's great in like half an
Mhm.
hour, a little less than half an hour. So feel free to keep an eye out for that. But Roxy, I just want to say that I've been really loving the incredible advice and inspiration you've been giving our community. It's just so beautiful to hear from you today. Have you
Thank you
picked
so much.
a winner of your giveaway? If you need some
Yeah.
more time, go for it.
Okay. Let me just answer. My heart is telling me I need to put myself more out there. Not afraid. Yeah. Yes. Kyle. I love that. Okay. My heart is telling me to write my memoir. Uh, okay. Oh, these are all so beautiful.
There's
That's
some really
actually not
lovely.
easy
It's not easy. Just
to
if you have to pick one a little bit at random, because there's some really lovely responses in the chat, then go for it.
I mean, I see 2 because the other ones, I see 2. Maybe you see more. So, why don't we do this? Amy Benavides, right? And then
Amazing.
Kyle Cord. I'm gonna give away 2.
Oh, that's so sweet. Amazing. Well, Kyle and Amy, if you can both DM Roxy with your email address here on Substack, if that's best, Roxy, to get the
Yeah,
the
that's
paid comp
perfect.
subscription. Thank you for
Yeah.
giving that away. That's so kind of you, and
Yeah,
for
no,
giving
it's
away
my
too.
pleasure. No, absolutely. I love supporting and thank you so much, Amy. I'm so proud of you and congratulations again. And I'm so grateful to be connected and I am fully in support of you and everything else that will be coming for you. And yeah, just you're doing great things in the world. So thank you. Thanks for
Yeah, thank
having
you for
me.
coming. I would love for you to share with our listeners a
Yeah.
little bit about maybe some of your offerings or where people can
Mhm.
find you on social media so that they can connect with you after this live stream.
Well, Substack is my favorite place online, people.
It's
Do we
great.
all agree? I love it. I love it so much. I mean, this is definitely a great place to connect with me. I do, have my Courage Club and my Mastery membership here. And so, there's all of that is if you go to my page, you can learn more about that. You can always DM me directly, ask me any questions. I love to be, very active with people here in Substack. Outside of that, the Roxanne Show podcast, anywhere, everywhere, YouTube, Instagram, if people do that, Roxy Look. But yeah, I mean, Substack is really like, let's stay in this house and, definitely my podcast, Roxanne Show. I would say go check that out because my baby girl. But this is the place. This is the place. Yeah.
I'll echo that. No, it's a really lovely place, and thank you for making it an even better place. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, Roxy. And thank you for sharing
Thank
all of your
you.
knowledge today.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.